So, welcome everyone to the Coaching Corner podcast and YouTube channel. And I am so excited to have Anja Linder with us today. I feel like it's a really mellow session. This is going to be like really holistic and calming and relaxing. So, I feel like the energy is quite different today. Anja is a fertility coach, and also she's got her own personal journey around fertility as well. Fertility is something that every time I talk about it, it literally gives me goosebumps in every part of my body. Not because I've had my own personal journey with it, so I have got two children, but I did a big research project and it just really gave me an understanding and insight into what people have gone through, how it's affected them, their work, their family. And some people, when they did this when I did this research, they hadn't even disclosed to anyone that they were going through this journey. So it just, yeah, Anja, I'd love you to give us an introduction to you, to your journey, and what the impact has been, and how that's kind of led you to where you are now.
Well, hi, Sarah. First of all, thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting. Yeah, I'm a fertility coach, and I guess I came to this in a rather long way. I My husband and I had a very long fertility journey. We had a lot of challenges to have both of our children, actually. So all in all, it was over 11 years of trying. Uh, and it took for the first one to have our son, it took us nearly 7 years for me to get pregnant. So there was a lot of trying, a lot of treatments, a lot of medications, injections, you name it. Um, and I ultimately also had reproductive immunology treatments in order to get pregnant. And so I felt very strongly at the time, after I'd had my first child, I felt like, well, this was really long and it was really hard and it was really heartbreaking. And I had this strong sense that uh, it would be really nice if I could use that, if I could help other people who are going through the same journey and maybe even help them have a shorter, uh, a shorter journey and shorter and easier journey to success. This was many years ago, and I didn't know fertility coaching was a thing back then. But it was a thought that I had in my mind. And then several years later, I trained as a life coach. And while I was doing my training, it became very clear that I had to choose a niche somehow. And so gradually became clear to me that the one that sort of stood out for me, where I really had an experience and where I even had this thought of helping people, was fertility. So when I first started researching fertility coaching, it was kind of well, actually, it was a lot intimidating, actually, because I saw a lot of doctors and midwives who were doing this, and so I thought, well, I don't really have I don't have any medical training, so what am I doing there? And I reached out to a group of coaches, and I asked to speak to if there were any other. Actually, it was on the coaching corner, and I asked if there were any fertility coaches who would be willing to talk to me. And somebody recommended someone who I got in touch with, and she was very encouraging and very welcoming. And I asked her straight up, like, do you think that there's a space for me here, given my background, but given the fact that I don't have any medical training? And she said, of course, because your story is worthwhile. Your story is worth telling, and it can help other people. And she also directed me to this fertility coaching training that I've now done, and so that's where I'm at right now. I'm just going through my certification at the moment, and yeah, I'm starting to work with clients now. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's my story.
How exciting that, like, I love it when people have had that like journey themselves and they come to a place of like, how do I use my story and my experience through that to be able to support other people. So that's just amazing. I'm just intrigued about like fertility coaching, because obviously I offer like NLP training, like general kind of coaching, executive coaching is my background and what I love training people in. What is so different about fertility coaching? Because when I spoke to people, I didn't realize how much like going through that journey affects like your mind, your body, like spirituality, all of those different things, your energy, everything, every area of your life. So I'm intrigued to know like what specific training is there around this? Like what's included in your training? What type of thing?
Okay, well, so to begin with, as you were saying earlier, that you learned when you were doing that study, it's tremendously difficult and stressful and anxiety inducing to go through a fertility journey. And when you're in that state of sort of continuous stress and disappointments and perhaps even losses, you can tend to be in the fight or flight state for prolonged periods. And so then your brain is signaling to your body that it's actually not safe to get pregnant. And so your body is actually kind of working against your wishes in order to protect you, because it believes that your brain believes that you're in danger. So the what we do is that we work with women to get out of that space, to help them to improve their chances of fertility success by working with their emotions. So there are three main points of what we do. Like, first of all, I talk to my clients and allow them a safe space to tell their story. That's like the very first step. Uh, and for many, it's the first time that they get to tell their story without feeling like they have to hold anything back, because they're telling their story to someone who is there just to listen, someone who has been in that position, somebody who knows how difficult, how tremendously stressful and heartbreaking it is, and someone who will listen without judgment. And from there, then we begin to untangle things in order to understand how her fertility journey is affecting different areas of her life and how she's coping with that, how she's dealing with the impact at the moment. And then we start working on concrete steps towards improvement, working on using her emotions instead of being, and being guided by them instead of being overwhelmed by them. And then we work on reprogramming, and unlearning old, unhelpful ways of showing up and responding in different kinds of situations in order to learn new ways of handling things so that they can get out of this emotional stuckness. And the ultimate goal is to, well, first of all, get into a better place emotionally so that they improve their chances of fertility success and thus be able to live fully in the wait instead of feeling like they have to wait to get a baby before they can actually live. Because it tends to happen a lot of times that we put our lives on hold in that situation. I know I did. Many things that, oh, I can't do that now because I have to do this and this and that, and I have to do the treatment. And so the idea is to be emotionally liberated in order to be able to live fully in the wait.
Yeah, I love that. And something that you mentioned just then reminded me of almost like this there's a weight and this heaviness of like when you reach a certain age you're expected to have children, and like certain cultural influences as well, like dependent on where the person is from and how much value they place on having a child, whether it be a boy or a girl, in terms of cultural preferences. So it sounds like there's this expectation from themselves, but also a wider, broader expectation from society and culture as well. Is that something that you've like come across?
Yeah, well, it's yes, very much, and also something I felt very strongly myself. I personally felt a lot of shame while I was going through this journey. I felt very alone, even though I was going through it with my husband. It was not the same thing for him. He was not going through all the same physical and emotional things that I was going through. And so I felt really alone. I felt uh, frustrated. I felt a lot of shame. I felt like I was failing, that I couldn't even do this basic human task of get pregnant. Like clearly there's something wrong with me. Like I was undeserving of this. Um, so that was really hard. That was sort of pressure that I was putting on myself, and negative thoughts that I was putting in my own head. But then there's also the projections that you put out onto others, and you get a lot of questions of like, oh, so are you guys gonna have kids? Do you want to have kids? And for the most part, for me, when I got those questions, I was very reluctant to open up and talk to people about it. I talked to very few people about it, which is also why I felt so lonely. Um, but I would just put on a brave face and say, oh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Sure, yeah, that would be nice, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe not right now. Things like that. So that, yeah, it made me feel, yeah, it was hard. It was hard every time I got those questions. And I hear that from clients as well, that it's difficult to get those questions and difficult to know how to handle those questions, and be able to know how to respond, because on the one hand it's good to talk to people around you, but on the other hand you also don't want to have those looks of pity on people's faces, and you don't want people feeling sorry for you or treating you differently because you're going through this. You want sympathy, you want compassion, but you don't want pity. So it's difficult to to get that balance right as well.
And just talking about like the other side of it, like I can't help but feel like when someone tells me their story, researching and interviewing all of those different people and hearing the variation of stories, like it is easy as someone who's not gone through that to instantly kind of feel sorry for someone who is going through that, just out of like compassion, just yeah, just kind of like I would never understand it because I've never been through it, but I can still show that empathy, that compassion, without really kind of dwelling on that with the person. And what kind of struck me through the research is the variation of stories, because from the kind of not really understanding it before I did this research, whenever someone said like they were going through like this journey, it's almost like you think, well, they can't get pregnant, and that's the journey that they're going on. And then at the end of it, they'll get pregnant, or they'll decide that actually that's not the journey that they want to continue on. But something that you mentioned, and it makes me just go cold with this, and I have to try kind of not to get emotional with this, but is the loss. Because what you don't realize sometimes, or what I didn't realize, is that people go on this journey. I feel quite emotional, but people go on this journey, and it might not result in a baby at the end of it, and it might result in so many losses that people experience, like going through this almost like never-ending grief cycle, and continuous. It might not just be one loss, it might be several losses. Like, how do you support people through that journey? And how do you protect yourself? Like, I know that you've been through this, but I mean, even now I'm feeling quite emotional about it. How do you protect yourself and your energy whilst you're helping someone through this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people experience loss. For me, in my first journey, my son was my very first pregnancy. So I'd never experienced that before. And then it took another 4.5 years to have our daughter. And I lost four pregnancies between my two children. Uh, and that's another, fortunately for me, they were all quite early. So also, when they happen in the pregnancy also depends on that, really influences how difficult it is, of course. Um, but I think as a friend, or as someone who knows someone who's going through this, I think the best thing that you can do is to listen. First of all, let them tell their story and give them the space to tell the story that they want to tell when they want to tell it. And just let them know that you sympathize, and that you're there for them. That's really, we can't fix anything, but we can show that we care without pity, sort of. Um, so I think that's really crucial. Giving people the space to tell the story, to tell what they want to tell, to share what they want to share. And for a lot of people, and I know it was like that for me, that um, sometimes it's hard to get those questions, and you don't, maybe you want to talk, but you don't always want to get those questions every time you see a family member, for instance. You don't want to, oh, so how's it going with the fertility treatments? Well, I'm not necessarily in a mood to talk about that. So it's great when you can sort of set those boundaries and say, I'll tell you when I'm ready to tell. We can
Mm.
talk about it when I'm ready to talk about it. Right now is not a great time, but it would be great to, we can do normal things, we can do fun things. You can ask me how I'm doing, but let's not talk about that.
Mhm.
And when I'm ready, I'll share things. And so I think it's useful to let people know that, okay, I know you're going through this, and I know it's really hard, and just know that when you want to talk, I'm here. But I
Mm.
also respect that um, you don't necessarily want to talk about it at all times. And there might be moments that are more difficult than others. So just know that I'm here to hear you and to listen to you when you're ready to talk.
Yeah. And I see coaching as part of a really vital part of that journey that people are going on with fertility. Just even creating that space to empower people to be able to practice some of those conversations and practice, like, how would I talk to my work? How would I talk to my family? How would I talk to my spouse about the boundaries that I want to put in place for the conversations that I do want to have and happy to have, but the ones that actually I'm not ready for. Do you find that with the coaching that it kind of acts as like just a safe space where people can almost like formulate what would I say in this situation? How would I talk to my boss about what I'm going through, or do I have to talk to my boss about what I'm going through?
Yeah, of course. I mean, these are things that come up in the very first couple of sessions that we do, when we sort of start to uh, get clarity about where the client is, where she's at in her journey, and how this journey is impacting her in different areas of life. And then it's different for everyone. But then through the conversation, these things come up, like, what do I need? Where do I feel that this is the hardest to deal with? And so those are, um, one client of mine, that specific conversation came up with regards to her family. how to deal with their questions, and how to set boundaries and with specific members of her family, and how, yeah, what sort of things to tell them and what sort of things to ask of them. So that's definitely something that we talk about.
I love the way that you said that, like what to tell them, but what to ask of them as well. I love that. It is a dialogue, isn't it? It is a conversation, like having that discussion with your family. One of the things that I don't know if this is something that you touch on with people, but one of the things that came up in the research is how few policies are in place or were at that time. It has improved now, but like what support can people get? So like they can get the coaching through you. So how would you summarize what it is that you help people with on this journey, and what other kind of avenues can they look for support? So whether it's like asking their workplace or finding out about policies to support them with time off, if they need to have a procedure or anything like that. Like, yeah, what other support would you recommend, and what support do you give as a summary?
Well, in terms of the support that you get, I know you're based in the UK, so I don't really know how things work there, and it's very in terms of time off and things like that. It's very country specific. It's very culture specific, and also specific to your workplace. For me, I don't deal at all with any of the medical side. I deal purely with the mental and emotional impact. Um, but I know that one client that I have, for instance, she says that she has asked her doctors for mental and emotional support, and she hasn't gotten any. Like there is no response for that. They deal with the medical side, but they don't look uh, beyond that at how it affects the whole person, how it affects her emotionally. And so that's what I do. I help women deal with that side. I help women increase their chances of pregnancy success by working with their emotions and working with the mind-body connection to free them of that downward cycle of despair that you tend to be on. There's sort of this as you go through your cycle each month, and you try, you hope, and then you get into despair when you realize that it hasn't worked, and then you're lifted up again when you realize that you can start trying again. But over time, that's a downward trend, and you can tend to get to a place where it's hard even to believe that it can be possible. So that's what we work on in order to help them free themselves of that emotional stuckness and be able to live instead. And I think that's a really valuable complement to the medical side. Obviously, I'm never going to tell a client that this is everything they need and that they don't need to go through them. Go and talk to their doctors. If you're having fertility issues, you should absolutely go and make sure that you have a good fertility doctor and do all the tests that you need to do. And if they tell you that you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you, everything is fine, just keep trying. Personally, I would get a second opinion then, depending on also how old you are and how long you've been trying. But it's really important to make sure that you have the right kind of medical support, and that you don't sort of take no for an answer. If you feel that there's something wrong and they're telling you that there's nothing wrong, go try to see another doctor. I mean, in my case, that's what I did, and that's what ultimately gave us success. Whereas my other doctors, when I discovered an issue, they told me, no, that's not an issue. And even if it was an issue, it's not an issue in your case, because it would only be an issue for women who are having recurrent miscarriages, who never had a miscarriage. And so I went to talk to other doctors, and I found one who was willing to try reproductive immunology treatments, and gave me no guarantees, but said that we could try, and it worked on the first IVF try. So that's how we had our son. So I really, when I talk to people, I really encourage them to make sure that they test everything and make sure that they figure out as much as they can what is wrong.
And that is so powerful, so powerful to even just know that I can question this like diagnosis. I can question this. And also that if it's possible for one person to question this and have a child at the end of it, it could be possible for me as well. That's so powerful just to even know that. So Anja, just to kind of wrap up, where are you on your journey? Because you mentioned that you have now got a case study client, so coming to the end of your certification. So tell us a bit more about kind of what is next for you, and how do people contact you as well?
Well, what's next for me is I'm continuing and looking to help more women who are on this journey. I'm super excited both about my case study and also about other women that I'm talking to. It's really an honor for me to be able to share my experience as much as that can help them, and also help them through my fertility coaching. I love doing that. And so what's next for me is continuing to do that and helping more women with that. To contact me, you can look me up on Facebook. I'm under Anja Linder Coaching. That's Anja with A-N-J-A. Or I'm also on Instagram at coach.anja.linder. So yeah, for anyone who is going through this, feel free to contact me to find out more, or even do a free consultation. I love doing free consultations also for people to find out what it is, and also to go away from that with some value. So yeah.
I was going to say, because doing that research like gave me such an insight that I wouldn't understand what people go through, how different the journey could be. So I was thinking, do you offer consultations for even coaches to understand? They might have a client who hasn't specifically kind of chosen them because they're a fertility coach, but might be to like help with some of the things around like the mindset, the stress, anxiety, things like that. So just to have an understanding of their journey is so powerful.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, just to mention, as you were talking about that, I mean, I think fertility coaching has lessons in many areas, because we talk about resilience, about emotional endurance, self-trust in the face of the unknown, and sitting with the unknown, the not knowing, and rebuilding your identity, and like bouncing, not just bouncing back, but bouncing forward after going through something like that, and coming back as someone who is different, because this journey changes you very much. And so all of that is I think also has relevance for other areas of coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so interesting when you look at it like that and the various things that would come into it. Because just as you were going through it, I was like, I can imagine there's quite a bit of like self-forgiveness in there, in terms of like when you're blaming yourself for things, and also acceptance of where you are in your journey and where you get to at the end of it. Also mindfulness, like there's so much in there about being present in the moment and enjoying the moment, rather than constantly kind of looking forward or looking backwards. There's just so much to it.
Yeah. No, and exactly, when you say acceptance, I mean that's one big thing that we work on as well, to accept where we are and then move on from there. And I know some of my colleagues have also worked with people who have been through the journey and have decided that they don't want to continue, but working through this program in order to make that a decision that they feel comfortable with and happy with, and that they are able to fully live with. and accept that, okay, we tried, and we're closing that chapter, and then we're moving on. So it really helps in so many ways.
Amazing. Well, it's been fantastic speaking with you, Anja. And I said 20 minutes, but I'm sure it's gone beyond that. I could speak to you literally for days about this. So thank you so much for sharing your insight. You're in the Coaching Corner community, so people can find you there, connect with you. I know that you've been like offering spaces for case study clients, free consultations, things like that. And also we'll put your links in the details of this podcast and YouTube episode as well. So thank you so much, Anja. That was really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This was really exciting. I'm really happy I got to talk to you about this. Thank you.
Take care.